To create my snowman ornament, I used the 1 pound yarn and I have 4 different colors here. I used brown for the arms, white for the body and head, orange for the nose, and red for the hat and scarf. You will also need pom-poms, and I used the red one to match the top of my snowman's beanie. I also used embroidery thread for the snowman's mouth, scissors and a glue gun, stuffing and a stitch marker, safety eyes, and of course my crochet hook in the size 5 millimeters. We're going to start off with our snowman's accessory, so just take the color yarn you're planning to make your beanie and scarf, and we're going to start off with a magic circle for round 1. So to create a magic circle, I'm just going to take my yarn and wrap it around my fingers. So I now have this X here, so I'm just going to take my hook, and you see how I'm putting this yarn further aside? You just want to take your hook and insert just through the circle to grab this yarn here. And you're going to pull that through your magic circle. So then I'm taking these fingers to grab this half of my circle, and I'm gonna let go with this finger. So now I'm just going to yarn over my hook and pull through. So next I'm just going to take this part of the yarn and pull it tight so I can shorten down my circle. So next you're going to single crochet 6 times into the hat. So single crochet is taking your hook inside the circle, grabbing this yarn, yarning over, and pulling through. So that is 1 single crochet. I'm going to do that 5 more times. I currently have 6 single crochets into my magic circle, so to end off this round, I'm just going to slip stitch into my first stitch. So I'm just taking my hook into that first stitch, and then I'm just taking some of this yarn and pulling it through both of the loops. So now I'm just going to insert my stitch marker into that last stitch. For round 2, you're going to first chain 1, and then you're going to increase into each stitch but with a double crochet. So you're going to yarn over your hook, insert your hook into the stitch, pull some yarn through. You have 3 loops. You want to yarn over and pull through the first 2, yarn over 1 more time and pull through the next 2, and then you want to do the same thing into the same stitch. So that was 2 double crochets into the first stitch, and then you just want to repeat that all the way until you end up with 12 stitches in total for round 2. Once you make it to the end of the row, you'll notice that this is 12 stitches, and then you have your stitch marker. So you can just remove your stitch marker, and to end off this round, you're going to slip stitch into where you did your chain 1. So this is where your stitch marker was, and then this is that chain 1. So you're just going to take your hook and grab some of this yarn and pull it straight through. So that's going to be the end of your round 2. And then I'm just going to quickly remove this and put my stitch marker back in, just so I don't lose my spot. And now you're going to chain 1. So for round 3, you're going to first increase with a double crochet. So we're only working with double crochets from now on, and you're going to start off with a double crochet. So I just chained my 1, and now I'm going to yarn over. I'm going into my first stitch, and I'm doing my double crochet. So there's my 3 loops, going through the first 2, yarning over and going through the next 2. So to increase it, I'm just going to do that 1 more time into the same stitch. Next, I'm going to double crochet into the next stitch, just 1 double crochet. And I want to repeat that all the way through. So increase, and then you do your 1, and then an increase in the 1, and then you should end up with 18 stitches in total for round 3. I've reached the end of round 3, and as you can see, you technically don't need a stitch marker because you can kind of tell where the end is since it has that little curve inside. But anyways, I'll just remove my stitch marker, and to end off this round, we're doing the same thing. So this is where your stitch marker was. This is the chain 1. You want to slip stitch into the chain 1. And then I'm just going to put my stitch marker back in. Let's keep it consistent. So for round 4, we want to chain 1, and then we're going to increase into the first stitch with our double crochet. And then we're going to double crochet into the next 2 stitches. So that's 1 into my next stitch to make it my second. And then you're going to repeat that all the way through until you end up with 24 stitches in round 4. So once again, that is an increase into the first stitch, then double crochet into the next 2 stitches, and then repeat. Okay, I'm near the end of round 4, and I just wanted to mention that you need to make sure you're counting the right stitches. This total here is already 24 stitches, and then I'm not counting where my stitch marker is, but now I'm just going to remove my stitch marker. And then for the last step, we're just going to slip stitch into, let's just slip stitch into the first stitch to make it easier, since it's right on top. And then this time I'm going to pull all the way through, and I already cut my yarn, so there's how we end off, and that is our little snowman's beanie. So I'm just going to secure this tight, and I'm going to take my hook and I'm going to insert it into the stitch that's closest. And then I have a little loop here. So now I'm just going to take this yarn and then put it into the circle, and that's how I secure it. And then I'm just going to leave this here for now because I'm not going to glue on the pom-pom yet, since I have some other stuff to glue, but this is part of our hat. Next up, we're going to create the scarf. So we're going to need to create a slip knot. So for our slip knot, what I do is just take my yarn and I hold it like this, then I twist it, and then I put my fingers through the circle and grab the yarn that is continuous, so not this one that's cut off here, and just pull it straight through. And then I take my hook and insert it into the circle and just tighten it up. So now we're going to create a chain of 29. So to chain, all you have to do is yarn over your hook and pull straight through. So depending on the length of your scarf will determine how many chains you want, but this right here is a chain of 29. So I'm going to continue this until I have 29. Once you have your chain of 29, we're going to work our way all the way back by doing a half double crochet. So to do a half double crochet, you want to yarn over your hook, and we're not going to go into the stitch that's closest to the hook, so that right here. You're going to go into this next one. So you want to insert your hook into that stitch, take some of this yarn, and now you have 3 loops. So you're going to yarn over one more time and pull through all 3. If I can work my way through. Okay, there we go. So now you're just going to continue doing that all the way until you make it to the end. 3 loops, yarn over, pulling through all 3. So I'll just finish that and I'll be right back. I've made it all the way back, and now I'm just going to cut off the excess piece of yarn. And then I'm just going to take this yarn and put it through the circle and pull it straight through just like that. And then originally I wanted to do like this fringe stuff, but you know what, it was too much work and I don't got time for that. Well, technically I do, but I didn't want to do it. So now I'm just going to cut off this yarn some more, but I ended up gluing, for this one I ended up gluing it back a little bit with the hot glue, so it wouldn't have any like frayed ends. So you can do that too if you want, but I'm just going to cut off like about this much here. And then I'm going to glue this back when I hot glue all the pieces together. Moving on to our snowman's arms, you'll need 2 pieces of course, and then I'm going to take this brown yarn and we're going to start off by doing the same thing with our slip knot, but for the arms I use these excess pieces to attach it to my snowman. So what you're going to do this time is just make sure you have some excess on the end here. So just like we did before, we're going to hold it like this, twist it, grab this yarn through. So I have this excess piece, it's a little bit longer. Now we're going to chain 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So this time we're going to single crochet back into our stitches. So we're not going to the one closest to the hook. So this is the one closest. That's what we don't want to do. We're going into the second one and we're just single crocheting all the way through. So single crochet is just going through your stitch. You have 2 loops, yarn over and pull through both loops. Once you finish single crocheting, now you can just cut off some yarn And then this time I'm just going to do the same thing actually. Take the yarn through the loop, and then I'm going to attach this later once we create the body. To create our snowman's nose, you're going to take your orange yarn and you're going to do the slip knot once again. And this time you're going to chain 2. So 1, 2, and then you're going to single crochet into the first chain you did. So this one here. There's my single crochet, and then you're just going to cut off this piece, and you're going to take that little loop here, do the same thing by inserting the yarn through the circle, and there you have your little nose. Now it looks kind of weird here, but you're just going to attach it by inserting these strings into the snowman's face, and then it'll look like that. Little nose. Finally, we're going to take our white yarn and we're going to start off with the head. The head and the body is actually one piece, so you don't need to sew that or glue it together. But for round 1 of the head, we're going to create our magic circle. So we've already shown this in the video, so I'm just going to do it quickly. And then you're going to single crochet 6 times into your magic circle. That was 1 single crochet. I'm just going to finish this part off camera. To end off round 1, you're just going to slip stitch into the first stitch, and then this is the only time you'll need to end off the round this way. And then you'll just place your stitch marker back into the stitch. And then now moving on to round 2, you're just going to increase into every stitch, so that's just 2 single crochets. So 1, 2 into the same stitch, and then I'll just repeat that until I end up with 12 stitches in total for round 2. Round 3, we're going to increase into the first stitch, so 2 single crochets, and then we're going to single crochet into the next stitch and repeat that all the way through until you end up with 18 stitches in total for round 3. Round 4 is our last increasing round, so we're going to increase into the first stitch. So that's 1, 2, and then you're going to single crochet into the next 2 stitches. So that's my next stitch here, and then my next stitch after that. And I want to repeat that all the way through until I end up with 24 stitches in total for round 4. Okay, now for rounds 5 to round 8, you're just going to single crochet into each round, and that's just going to create the length of our snowman's face. After rounds 5 to 8, this is what the snowman head starts to look like. So now we're going to start our decreasing rounds. For round 9, we're going to start with an invisible decrease. So we're just going into the front loops only. So here is the front loop. I'll just put my hook to show you. Okay, so that is the front of my loop. And then I'm just going to take some of this yarn and pull it through. And now I have 2 loops. So I want to go into my next stitch of the front loop only. So there it is. And then I'm going to yarn over one more time. And now I have 3 loops, so I'm just going to yarn over and pull through all 3. So that was an invisible decrease. And now I'm going to single crochet into the next 2 stitches. So 1, 2, and then I'll just show you the decrease one more time. So I'm just going into the front loop only of this stitch here, taking this yarn through. I'm going into the next stitch of the front loop only, yarning over, pulling through, yarn over one more time and pull through all 3. So then I will continue again by single crocheting into the next 2 stitches, and I'll repeat that all the way through until I end up with 18 stitches in total for round 9. For round 10, we're going to start off with an invisible decrease once again. So just into the front loops only. And then you want to single crochet into the next stitch, And you'll repeat that all the way through until you end up with 12 stitches in total for round 10. Okay, so before we do our last decreasing round, what you can do now is stuff the head of the snowman and put on the eyes. But what you can do here is just take your beanie that you made and then just place it onto your snowman. So that way you can determine where you want your eyes to go. So I'm just gonna go and do that off camera. Okay, so I also decided to put on the nose, and for the nose, all you have to do is remember the excess piece I told you about. You're just going to push it through wherever you want to place it, and then once you place it in the inside, all you have to do is just tie the two pieces together to make sure it's secure. So I'm just gonna tie it one more time, and then here is the nose. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and put on the mouth as well. Now that I have this little guy's face on, we're going to do our last round for the face. It's going to be round 11 and we're doing all decreases. So we're gonna end up with 6 stitches in total for this round. And because it's our last round and it's not really the face of it, we can do a normal decrease. It's kind of the bottom, so you won't be able to tell too much. But for our normal decrease, all you have to do is go through the entire stitch this time instead of the front loops only, and it's literally the same process. So yarn over and pull through all 3, and then you're just going to continue doing that all the way through. To create the snowman's body, we're going to repeat some of the same steps we did earlier for the head. So for round 1 of the body, we're going to increase into each stitch, which will equal up to a total of 12 stitches in total for round 1. So it's going to be a little bit harder to work in because it's a smaller space, but we're just going to increase into every stitch. So that's 2 single crochets. So 1 and 2. And then after this, I'm going to just struggle off camera doing it. For round 2, we're going to increase into the first stitch. 1, 2, and then you're going to single crochet into the next stitch and repeat that all the way through until you end up with a total of 18 stitches in round 2. For round 3, we're going to increase into the first stitch, 2, and then you're going to single crochet into the next 2 stitches, 1, 2, and you want to repeat that all the way through until you end up with a total of 24 stitches in round 3. Now, because we want this part of the body to be a little bit bigger than the head, we're going to do one more round of increases. So you want to start off with an increase into the first stitch, and then you want to single crochet into the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, and 3, and then you want to repeat all the way through until you end up with a total of 30 stitches in round 4. Now for rounds 5 to round 9, you're just going to single crochet into each round to create the length of the snowman's body. I'm back from finishing rounds 5 to round 9. Now we're going to move on to round 10, and we're going to start off with an invisible decrease, so just the front loops only. And then you want to single crochet into the next 3 stitches. 2, 3, and then you're going to repeat that all the way through until you end up with a total of 24 stitches in round 10. For round 11, we're going to start off with an invisible decrease. And then you're going to single crochet into the next 2 stitches. And you want to repeat that all the way through until you end up with a total of 18 stitches for round 11. After you finish that round, you can stuff the body of your snowman, and then now we're going to move on to round 12. So for round 12, we're going to do a normal decrease, so no front loops, just go through the whole stitch. And then you're going to single crochet into the next stitch. And you want to repeat that all the way through until you end up with a total of 12 stitches in round 12. For your last round, you're just going to decrease all the way through, so you'll end up with a total of 6 stitches in your last round. If you feel like you need to add a couple more decreases, go ahead and do that. But now I'm just going to, well, I already cut off the excess piece of yarn, so I'm just taking my little loop here and I'm going to insert this yarn through it to tighten it up. And then I'm going to take my hook on the other side where there's an open stitch, and I'm just going to take this yarn, pull it through just to close this a little bit. And then I'm going to find another open spot, take some of this yarn through. I have my little loop here, insert the yarn through this loop to secure it. And then I'm just going to stuff this excess piece of yarn back into the snowman. I now have all of my pieces done, but I wanted to show you that with your beanie, you need to make sure you cut off some excess red yarn so you can create the ornament portion. And then you're going to take your pom-pom and just hot glue it to the top. So I'm going to do that right now. And then I'm going to glue the entire beanie to the head of my snowman. So just like that. I don't think I need to show that on camera, but I'll glue that after, and then you're going to glue on the scarf and attach the arms, and then you'll be done. Here is what he looks like after I attach his little arms and the scarf. He's so cute, and I'm really excited because I usually get a new ornament every year for my Christmas tree, but this is actually my first crocheted item. He's so cute. And originally I was going to add an additional snowball body part to make him bigger, and I can also add the buttons. Well, technically I can still put the buttons here, but he's so little that I don't want to add too much to him. But the reason I didn't add the additional body part is because I didn't want to weigh down the tree, and this actually isn't heavy, but you know, I have a lot of other ornaments on there. So yeah, I just kept him really small and cute. But if you follow this tutorial, I hope you liked it, and thank you for watching. Bye bye.